goodness, has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man. We beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us, thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let thy blessings descend upon us here in this assembly, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. All which we ask in thy name, and for the sake of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Honorable Single Island White Electoral District Member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, for the prayers. Good morning, members. You may be seated.
Confirmation of minutes, minutes of proceedings of the 6th meeting of the 5th session of the 12th Anguilla House of Assembly.
Are there any amendments to the minutes, please? Since there are no amendments, can someone move that the minutes be confirmed as circulated, please?
Madam Speaker, I move that the minutes be confirmed as circulated.
Madam Speaker, I second.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of proceedings of the 6th meeting of the 5th session of the 12th Anguilla House of Assembly be confirmed as circulated. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Minutes of proceedings of the 6th meeting of the 5th session of the 12th Anguilla House of Assembly confirmed as circulated.
Oath of allegiance, new members, the Honorable Deputy Governor Acting.
I, Aidan Harrigan, do solemnly and sincerely affirm and declare that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty, King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law. Announcements by the direction of the Speaker.
Thank you. I make apologies for the absence with reason for the Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Jose Vanterpool. Also, I just want to respectfully appeal to all so let's try to bring legislation to the House in a timely manner, maybe earlier in the year, if we can focus more on that. I know that puts a little strain on the Attorney General's chambers, but just so that we are not here at this time of the year in a rush to pass legislation. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Questions? None. Government statements and recent developments? None. Papers? None. Reports from committees? None. Petitions? None. Government notices? None. Private members' notices? None. Motions? Motion 7 of 2024, 5/12 HOA, approval of goods and services tax amendment regulations 2024.
The honorable member for Island Harbor is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning to you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, the members. Good morning to the Honorable Clerk and staff of the House of Assembly. Good morning to those in the gallery and to Anguillians listening, watching by any other means. Madam Speaker, I rise to move motion 7, 2024-512 HOA, approval of goods and services tax amendment regulations 2024. Can I get a second?
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, Goods and Service Tax Act Amendment Regulations 2024, Resolution, be it resolved that this House of Assembly, pursuant to Section 100 of the Goods and Services Tax Act 2021, approves the Goods and Services Tax Amendment Regulations 2024 made by the Minister of Finance on the 18th day of December 2024. Madam Speaker, we, on December 17th, would have passed in this Honorable House the Goods and Services Tax Amendment Act 2024. And those amendments were made to allow that the GST would be removed from all food items excluding alcohol and confectionaries. In these regulations, this is to allow that to happen. The implementation date was December 19, 2024, and this was gazetted. And I must report that the merchants followed our recommendations after having met with Inland Revenue, Consumer Affairs, and Customs on the 9th of December, had updated their point of sale systems, and many Anguillians noted a decrease in costs with removal of the goods and service tax from food items. And I have seen several receipts that show GST at $0. And I want to commend the merchants for following through, and also for the people of Anguilla for the patience that they have had with this administration, understanding where we were and the need for the goods and service tax to help to pay debt, to continue services that government has to pay for, health, education, security, to allow certain projects to get started and going, to help with completing the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School Campus Q, and allowing students to come off the split shift system. And so I am happy that during this season of good tidings, joy, and giving, that the people of Anguilla have noted that this administration was able, given the improvement in the economy, to remove the goods and service tax from food. Madam Speaker, this represents $17 million in revenue that will not be collected. And so that is a relief to the people of Anguilla. But also in these regulations, Madam Speaker, we know that our fisher folk, that they continue to do hard work, going out on the sea for many miles, staying long hours, regardless of weather conditions, regardless of their conditions at home, to make sure that they provide food for their families, for themselves, for the people of Anguilla, and for the visitors who come to Anguilla. And you do know, Madam Speaker, that in this year's budget for 2025, we have included where we want to make sure that fishers, as they increase the fishing industry, can have access to fish services where they can bring their catch and dispose of, and they can also do export. Because we have been told by our neighboring islands, St. Martin and St. Martin, that we have to meet certain requirements so that we can export. And testing, processing has to be done in a certain manner that is essential to continuing this trade, which, Madam Speaker, personal to you and I, has made us who we are. You know, we would not be here where we are without, you know, the good, careful hands of our family members who have fished for many decades and continue to do that. And as we preserve the industry, and as we continue to make sure that the legacy of our forebears continue and make it easier for them, for their progeny to be able to dispose of their catch, we continue to advance, you know, fish testing, processing, and the ability to expand the industry. So one of the issues we found where we do have duty concessions for those who are registered as fishers and farmers, we have found that there were certain deficits where we did not list engines for their boats, such as outboard motors and also inboard motors, and that's included in these regulations, and will be taken back to the 1st of October 2024 as the implementation date for the duty concessions for motors for fishing vessels. Of course, we are asking that fishers be registered with the association, because we do know that these type of engines can also be used for recreational purposes. They can be used in other ways, and so we want to make sure that we acknowledge the hard work and sacrifice of our fisher folk and make sure that we provide these services and these incentives. And also, we want to just encourage farmers to register as part of the Farmers Association, because services are provided to them that, you know, if they're not registered, they would not be eligible for. So, with the regulations, they're listed here, the different, all food items, no GST. No GST on the outboard motors, inboard motors for fisher folk. But there will be the GST charge at 13% for confectionaries, such as candy, and because we want to protect the health of our citizens, Madam Speaker, and sometimes, you know, it's necessary to put a little sin tax on so that people are not as easily influenced to go that way. Certainly in moderation, we have no issues with. And also alcohol, Madam Speaker. And this is listed out here in the regulations, the different types of alcohol the quantities of alcohol which will be taxed with the GST at the 13%. Also, in this, Madam Speaker, we did before remove the GST, made it exempted, zero-rated, for eyeglasses, because we do know that health services are exempted from the goods and service tax, as is education services. But we missed on glasses frames. So, the lenses are covered, but, got to have those fancy frames, I've seen some wonderful looking ones. Some say the librarian shaped glasses, and some have these now big glasses that takes up about half their face, but it may be stylish, but it's used for the purpose of being able to see better, and we want to make sure that there's no undue cost. So goods and service tax removed from glasses, frames, and also sunglasses, Madam Speaker. We did miss that also on the last round of exemptions and zero-rated items, and so sunglasses now will not attract the goods and service tax. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Before I open the floor for contributions, I am hoping that this doesn't go back into the debate of the last sitting. So, seeing that we've already debated this and this is just the regulations, I propose for 15 minutes time limit for members. Do I have leave of the assembly for that? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. So 15 minutes would be allotted for each member. So I invite contributions for motion 7, 2024, 512 HOA. Floor is open. The Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mrs. Quincy Gomes Marie, is recognized.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, members of the Assembly, and those listening via radio, Facebook, other means. It is a couple days before Christmas, but this amendment is one of giving, so it might be a fitting timing. Who knows? I do want to rise in full support of this amendment, particularly as it relates to the amendments in relation to food security. The amendments as it relates to food security. We know, similar to the comments I made in relation to the manufacturing bill, GST would have had several exemptions and the list was prescriptive, which means that when certain things would come, if they weren't on the list, although they were intended to be captured, we could not offer exemptions for it. This was just a matter of amending the list and understanding the needs of those it is meant to serve. And we realized that outboard motors was indeed left off and should have been included. So it is a great pleasure that we have resolved this matter. And it's also good to note for those listening that persons who would have imported any of these items backdated to October of this year, they'll be able to be reimbursed by the government of Anguilla, which again shows our intention that it was not intentional and that we would like to capture those who would have been affected by this exemption from the exemption list. I do also want to note one change that would impact fisher folk in particular, that they would need to become members of the Fisher Folk Association. So previously, the Section 8 of this regulation only required farmers to be part of the association. That was an oversight as well. It is important for these associations to work, Madam Speaker, and some people may have different opinions on if they would like to be members of the association or not. But there is value in the association, and as with everything, if you feel it is not serving you, the best thing to do is to be part of it and contribute to the change that you would like to see. The Fisher Folk Association is they made some changes. I would have requested specifically for there to be a member from the Ministry of sustainability to be a member of the executive board so that we can support them in serving the fishers to the best of their capacity. And if you want to see what the value of an association is in Anguilla, you can look to the Farmers Association. We've done so much because of the collaboration and because of the unity in position. We were sure of where everyone stood, we were sure of the needs of all of the farmers, and we want to better meet the needs of all of the fishers. And it is only best that they come together, join the association, lobby as one body, and get government to be able to meet their needs in the way that we should. And so I definitely support this change. And it's important to note that without being a member of this association, you will not benefit from the exemption of the 13% GST rate on your imports. Excuse me? For anything. This also includes this regulation also includes removal of bait as something that attracts duties in GST, particularly GST in this regulation. And this has been a concern of the fishers as well. Once importing the bait, they had to pay additional taxes on it when this would be an input good. And Madam Speaker, these changes really come at a time when we would have been able to understand the trends of the goods and services tax, because as much as you would want to make it as feasible and beneficial to the people of Anguilla, you would need to know the trends in order to make changes. So now that we're about 2 years into the goods and services tax, we are in a point where we can go back and make changes that meet the needs and not ad hoc needs, and also be able to price the changes so that it is sustainable, because we do not want to be at a point where we come back and say it wasn't thought through, it wasn't priced properly. And these changes only happen when you have trends to observe. So I really thank the Premier and member from District 1, Ellen Harbour, for his understanding of the needs, his willingness to be intimately involved in the needs of the fishers and the farmers, his support of food security, and his leadership in ensuring that we all get on board, pun intended, on the matters of food security in this island. So it is with great pleasure I stand in support of this, and I look forward to even more improvements in food security as we continue to grow sustainably together. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Are there any other contributions to this motion, please? Since there are no other contributions, I invite the mover to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the member for the intervention and support, and I will accept that all who have not spoken will be in full agreement with these regulations, which essentially just bring into force what has already passed through the House. And we look forward to continuing to make changes as we go along, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I put the question. Motion 7, 2024, 512 HOA has been debated without amendment. Members, the question is that this motion be passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Motion 7, 2024, 512 HOA has been passed without amendment and is now a resolution of the Assembly.
Personal explanations, none. Other business, government business. A bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024, first reading.
The Honourable Member for Island Harbour is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 have its first reading.
Madam Speaker, I raise a second. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 be read a first time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a first time.
An act to repeal the Company Management Act and to make provision for the licensing and regulation of trust and corporate services providers carrying on business in or from within Anguilla.
Bill read a first time.
Thank you, Matt. That's what I...
A bill for trust and corporate services providers Act 2024, second reading.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I raise a second.
Thank you. And Madam Speaker, these bills, this and the two following, are from the Ministry of Finance. The has to do with, fees, regulations, and as our financial service industry, as we continue to advance it, to regulate it, to be in compliance, there will be bills that will, and amendments that will come to this House time to time. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill went to the Executive Council with the request to approve the repeal of the Trust Companies and Offshore Banking Act and Regulations, Company Management Act and Regulations, and replace with this bill regulations, fees, financial service return regulations, Offshore Banking Act, and the Offshore Banking regulations. And these are necessary as we continue to meet the needs, certain deficiencies noted through the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, and also the CFATF, which is the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. So listed here are some objects and reasons for this bill, Madam Speaker. In 2014, the group of International Finance Center supervisors introduced a standard on the regulation of trust and corporate service providers with a view to establishing a new framework for adequate regulations and supervision of trust and corporate service providers, shortened as TCSPs. Research has indicated that the adoption of the principles set out in this new framework will raise the standard for anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism. The bill therefore seeks to give effect to various issues addressed in the standard. Madam Speaker, I'd like to state here that there's been significant consultation on this bill. And so if there is concern about the industry having had access, there's been significant consultation, and this was first round started back in 3rd of September 2020, and then legislation was published for a second round of consultation on 11th of May 2022, and then the several iterations after. The 9th of February 2024, the Commission, that's the Financial Service Commission, in collaboration with the British Virgin Islands Financial Service Commission, hosted a training session for the industry on this legislation. Prior to this to that session, a few comments were received from the industry. Queries received during the session were mainly in relation to the expected timeline for enactment and implementation. So the industry has been made aware, have had the ability to make comments, suggestions, which were taken into consideration, and here we are with this draft bill, which we present today to the House for consideration. I see present in the gallery is the director for the Financial Service Commission and a member of the commission. So, as I was saying, the research was done, and the bill seeks to give effect to various issues addressed in the standards, such as oversight and regulation of the TCSPs, the licensing, corporate governance, the integrity of controllers, separation of the funds of TCSPs clients from the funds of the TCSPs themselves, capital and liquidity requirements relating to these trust and corporate service providers, the auditing of accounts, and the keeping of records. Part 1 of the bill provides for preliminary matters, including the interpretation in Clause 1 and the meaning of key terms used in the bill, in Clauses 2 to 5. Provision is made in Part 2 of the bill, Clauses 6 to 14, for the regulation of fiduciary services business. Clause 6 sets out the prohibition of any person other than a licensed company from carrying on fiduciary services business in or from within Anguilla, and provides that a licensee does not require a license under the Licensing of Business Act in respect of its trust business or company management business. Clause 7 details the various types of licenses and subcategories of licenses for which a company may apply, and also enables a company to apply for its license to extend to its wholly owned subsidiary company. Depending on the type of license issued, various aspects of fiduciary service business would be authorized. For example, acting as a registered agent, providing company management and administration services, and acting as a trustee to trust structures established within or outside of Anguilla. Clause 8 to 11 and the schedule set out the information required for an application for a license under the legislation and empower the Financial Service Commission to issue a license to a successful applicant and extend the license to include the applicant's subsidiary company. Part 3 of the bill, clauses 15 to 25, outlines the key obligations of a licensee and the subsidiary companies to which its license extends, termed regulated subsidiary companies. By virtue of Clause 15, a licensed and a regulated subsidiary company are required to have a principal office in Anguilla and to appoint a resident manager and 2 agents. A specified amount of paid-up and unencumbered share capital is to be maintained. This is Clause 17. And a policy of insurance is to be maintained with an insurance company approved by the Commission, which is the Anguilla Financial Service Commission, in Clause 18. By virtue of Clause 19, a licensee and a regulated subsidiary company would be required to seek the prior written approval of the Commission in respect of a change of name. Clause 20 imposes upon a licensee a duty to notify the Commission of certain transactions involving shares. For example, a transfer of shares that does not result in a change to the distribution of the licensee's beneficial ownership. However, the Commission's approval is required prior to significant ownership changes in Clause 21. Part 4 of the bill, clauses 26 to 34, seeks to regulate managing trust companies. Clause 26 sets out the prohibition of any person acting as a managing trust company unless the Commission's authorization has been obtained and a written management agreement is filed with the Commission. Clauses 27 to 29 set out the required material necessary in an application for an authorization under the legislation and empower the Commission, if satisfied with the submitted material, to issue an authorization to a successful applicant. Clauses 30 and 31 set out the obligations of managed trust companies and managing trust companies, respectively, while Clause 32 deals with the content of management agreements, and Clause 33 identifies the books and records that are to be kept by a managed trust company. Clause 34 deals with corporate governance and requires a managed trust company to have at least one director who is resident in Anguilla and at least one resident manager. Part 5 of the bill, clauses 35 to 37, regulates outsourcing. Clause 35 empowers the Commission to specify the functions of a licensee that shall not be outsourced, while Clause 36 would require data, whether in a physical or digital format, to be held in a secure manner. Clause 37 deals with the protection of personal data. Part 6 of the bill, clauses 38 to 43, seeks to make provision for the regulation of directors of the board of a licensed company or its regulated subsidiary. The prior written approval of the Commission would be required for the appointment of resident managers, and the Commission would have to be notified if directors or change, clauses 38 and 39 respectively. Directors should be required to disclose to the board their conflicting interests in any transactions, clause 40. Part 7 of the bill, clauses 41 to 49, deals with administrative provisions. Clause 41 empowers the Commission to publish a list of licensed companies, all of their regulated subsidiary companies, and also all of the subsidiary companies that carry on business other than fiduciary services business. The Commission is also empowered to make an order prohibiting an individual from performing any function if it appears that the individual is not a fit and proper person to perform functions in relation to the relevant fiduciary services business, clauses 45 to 47. Part 8 of the bill, clauses 50 to 57, contains provisions requiring the annual accounts of a licensee and a regulated subsidiary company to be audited by an auditor. By virtue of Clause 50, the auditor's appointment would have to be approved in writing by the Commission. The annual accounts would be prepared on an accrual basis and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles acceptable to the Commission, Clause 51, and the auditor would be required to report to the Commission any matter which, in the auditor's opinion, constitutes an offense involving fraud or dishonesty, in clauses 52 to 54. The bill specifies the books and records that a licensed and a regulated subsidiary company are required to keep and maintain, clauses 56 and 57. Part 9 of the bill, clauses 58 to 62, sets out various offenses constituted under the legislation, and these include giving false or misleading information, clause 59, and breaching the conditions of a license, clause 60. Part 10 of the bill, clauses 63 to 76, deals with miscellaneous provisions. Clause 64 enables the Commission to intervene before a court on behalf of depositors and the voluntary winding up of a licensee or regulated subsidiary company. Clause 70 empowers the Commission to issue codes of practice, and Clause 71 sets out the power of the Governor to implement regulations for the administration of the legislation. Clause 72 deals with exemptions that may be granted by the Commission. Now, when considering whether to exempt a licensee from having to comply with the legislation, the Commission would be guided by objective criteria so that the process of obtaining an exemption would be transparent. A condition may be attached to an exemption, and breach of the condition would be an offense. Clause 73 enables the amendment of the schedule, which sets out minimum criteria for licensing. Clause 74 contains transitional provisions, and Clause 75 seeks to repeal the Company Management Act. Clause 76 provides the citation and commencement of the legislation. Madam Speaker, this bill, Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024, is very necessary at this time for the services of the Anguilla Financial Service Commission to continue. And we do know that as we go into 2025, it is necessary for them to have the ability to regulate these different financial service companies, and also to ensure that there is compliance with the AML and CFT regulations and other acts. I just want to say that this bill strengthens provisions existing under the current TCSP regime captured in the Trust Companies and Offshore Banking Act and the Company Management Act. It supports the existing anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism obligations in current law, and introduces new provisions to ensure compliance with international standards and best practices in the industry regionally and internationally. The TCSP bill, which we are currently reviewing, reinforces best practices for corporate governance and financial soundness. It is also noted, Madam Speaker, that the Financial Service Commission, it was established in 2004, and this sector has not seen a fee increase since that time. The sector has been assessed to carry out a higher degree of AML and CFT risk. Accordingly, the Commission has increased its supervision of the sector by conducting frequent inspections and periodic desk-based reviews. As well, the Commission is mindful of the comments in the CFATF Mutual Evaluation Report for Anguilla, which requires the Commission to expend additional effort to the supervision of the TCSPs. And there has been some fee increases that have been recommended, Madam Speaker, to help maintain the AFSC, and those will be addressed in the draft bill and regulations. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite debate on the merits and principles of a bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024. The floor is open for contributions. Since there are no contributions, I invite the mover to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so I think that the understanding is this is necessary as we move forward, as we modernize our regulatory regime, as we expand the financial service industry. There has to be, this has to be regulated, because we not only cater for Anguilla in this respect, Madam Speaker, we are now global, and we have to comply with these, decisions that are made, sometimes the OECD, the EU, and others that, monitor and regulate the industry. And I think the providers are well aware of that, and therefore they have seen this draft bill and certainly have made their comments, which have been taken into consideration. And so today we present the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 for consideration by this House, and I would ask everyone to approve. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 be now read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to repeal the Company Management Act and to make provision for the licensing and regulation of trust and corporate services providers carrying on business in or from within Anguilla.
Under Rule 45 of the House of Assembly Rules of Procedure 2021, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole assembly to be considered clause by clause. I just wish to invite the technical staff of the Financial Services Committee to be a commission, to be a part of the committee stage. And also, I believe there's a presentation that's going to be made for the for public consumption. Okay. So in the person, you can sit in. So it will be in the person of Miss Sharon A. Carty, who is the Deputy Director of Supervision of the Financial Services Commission. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Further to the remarks made by the Premier as it relates to the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Bill, I just wanted to add a few words. I know that he would have provided some extensive comments in relation to the purpose of the legislation, and he would have spoken to the different clauses which absolutely provide some insight for the different provisions set out in the legislation. But I just wanted to mention quickly that this piece of legislation is critical for Anguilla in moving forward as a premier financial services center. The provisions in the legislation were designed to adhere to international standards, specifically the standards set out by the FATF, which is the Financial Action Task Force. And there were some gaps identified in the most recent mutual evaluation conducted by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, which this bill seeks to address, as well as other standards that would have been published by the group of international financial center supervisors. So I just wanted to mention that this bill is critical in ensuring that Anguilla is put at the forefront when it comes to complying with international standards. The legislation has not seen, the current legislation has not seen any major amendments in 20 years. So it's quite timely, probably overdue for this piece of legislation. So I just wanted to mention that quickly. And as the Premier would have also mentioned, we've done quite a bit of sessions with the industry. So the bill that is put forward before the House today captures the collaboration between the FSC as well as the industry and all stakeholders concerned.
Thank you. Very much appreciated. And if there are any questions during the committee stage, it can be directed to Ms. Carty. Thank you.
So clause 1 through 5.
Clause 1 through 5 for consideration. I put the question that clause 1 through 5 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 6 through 14.
I put the question that clauses 6 through 14 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 15 through 25.
I put the question that clauses 15 through 25 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 26 through 34.
I put the question that clauses 26 through 34 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 35 through 37.
I put the question that clauses 35 through 37 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 38 through 40.
I put the question that clauses 38 through 40 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 41 through 49.
I put the question that clauses 41 through 49 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 50 through 62. Clauses 50 through 57, that is.
I put the question that clauses 50 through 57 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 58 through 62.
I put the question that clauses 58 through 62 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 63 through 76.
I put the question that clauses 63 to 76 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The schedule.
Put the question that the schedule do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. Thank you, Ms. Carter, for your assistance. Ms. Carty. You may report, sir.
Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 has passed through committee without amendments and is ready for its third reading. Madam Speaker, under Rule 44, I beg that the rules of the House be suspended to allow first, second, and third readings in the same sitting. Oh, second and third readings in the same setting. Thank you.
On the
you want
rule,
an explanation? Yes, and certainly, Madam Speaker, the reason for this is, as you heard the member of the Anguilla Financial Services Commission, this is legislation is critical to Anguilla and to the financial service industry. But it's also necessary, as I stated earlier, that the Financial Service Commission has not seen fee increases since its inception in 2004, and it's necessary to have the fees reflect the extended services that they do in terms of regulation. And we also know that they have incorporated the the company registry services, which previously was on its own before July of 2024. And so given that increased need for regulation compliance, it's necessary to see those fees increase, which will help them with their budget for 2025, hence the need to have this done before the end of the year, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
thank you. Under Rule 36 of the Rules of Procedure, I consent to the proposing of this motion. Can someone second?
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that the rules of procedure of the Assembly be suspended to allow the bill entitled A Bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 to be read a third time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
A bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024, third reading.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 be read a third time and passed.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to repeal the Company Management Act and to make provision for the licensing and regulation of trust and corporate services providers carrying on businesses in or from within Anguilla.
Bill read a third time and passed.
A bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024, first reading.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024 be read a first time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
Thank you, members. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled, "A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024" be read a first time. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a first time.
An act to repeal the Trust Companies and Offshore Banking Act and to replace it with the Offshore Banking Act as a consequence of the enactment of the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act, which now governs the management of trust companies.
Bill read a first time.
A bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024, second reading.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled, "A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024" be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as was stated with the enactment of the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024, this has required that the Offshore Banking Act also be repealed and replaced with this new bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024. This legislation will continue to monitor offshore banking and will also bring in place regulations. We do know that with the risk of de-risking in the region and also the limited corresponding banking, that these have become issues, and our corresponding banks tend to be very careful, as expected, to make sure that we are following the AML and CFT requirements and provisions. However, given other legislation that has been passed, including the Special Economic Zone, we also have the Anguilla residency by investment, where we've been having difficulty setting up accounts here. It is necessary to have good offshore banks and also to have them properly regulated. And so this new Offshore Banking Act 2024 will allow the Commission to better regulate offshore banks and encourage offshore banking, which will allow the services legal services that need to happen, expand our industries and our economy, and make Anguilla a more attractive place for Anguillians and also for those who want to call Anguilla home. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite debate on a bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024. The floor is open for contribution. The Honorable Member for Rhodes South is recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to give support for this bill, the Offshore Banking Act 2024. But I must say it would be remiss of me if I did not say that there was a time in Anguilla's history where the offshore financial services industry brought more money into the treasury than everything else, including tourism. As you see today with the rise of .ai in the domain name, and Anguilla was at that point, at a particular time in our history as it relates to financial services, the financial services sector. And this is why you have to tread carefully, because you never know what the global community and what regulations and they will place upon you. Because you saw back in 1976 until the early 80s, up until 1984, where the offshore financial services sector was solely under the remit of the Minister of Finance. And we had constitutional amendment, and in that constitutional amendment, we made a trade. We gave up the offshore financial services sector to His Majesty's government, then Her Majesty's government, and in turn, we got a position of parliamentary secretary and appointed members. To me, it wasn't a good trade, but that's a trade nevertheless. And we have seen over the years, systematically, the pressures that comes from the first world countries on our offshore financial sector. Myself and the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, we are bankers, and I look in the gallery and I see bankers in the gallery as well, Madam Speaker. And we recall the days, the glory days, where a youngster could come off the street with his driver's license or his passport and open a bank account in a matter of 5 minutes, and he had a bank account. We saw the days where business persons from other neighboring islands, whether it be St. Martha or St. Martin, Antigua, etc., could come and open an account and have good business in Anguilla. We saw those days. But today, Madam Speaker, even as it relates to the domestic side, if an 18-year-old who has just become employed wants to open a bank account, they have to go to Cuba, to the Dominican Republic, to New Jersey, to Slough, and back to Anguilla, Madam Speaker. That is how arduous and how difficult it is. And the offshore financial sector in particular has been regulated and regulated and regulated some more. And I know the persons who work in the financial services sector, whether it be the Financial Services Commission or otherwise, they work hard. They have to work hard, because from 1 week to the next, you never know what type of legislation they will have to work on to ensure that they remain compliant. And every so often, you'll see a list. You know, I don't know why they call it a blacklist, you know. But it shouldn't be a blacklist, it should be a whitelist. And when you're compliant, then it should be a blacklist. But every so often, you see a list comes out saying that you have been blacklisted. Or you may see a list saying that you're being graylisted. And even though that be the case, if you look at our Constitution, the Constitution does not give any power over financial services, offshore financial services, to the local administration. We come to this Parliament, yes, to pass legislation, to make amendments, but we have no constitutional power. As a matter of fact, the Constitution states that we can't even ask the governor, who's responsible for the financial services sector, any questions as it relates to it, to the way it's being governed. So that in itself is a democratic deficit, an anomaly that needs to be remedied. You know, we once had those powers, but as we have opened our Constitution time and time again, we have seen a devolution of powers from the local administration to Her Majesty's government. But you know who gets the blame? The government of the day. And I'm not speaking about this particular administration, I'm talking about the government of the day, whoever that government may be, because no government, whether it be the Anguilla United Front, Anguilla Progressive Movement, the administration of Colonel Gaddafi, or the administration of Mahatma Gandhi, no administration remains in office forever. So we have to ensure that whatever we do it for the long term, beyond our time. But again, I rise in full support of this, given the context in which we are in today. And I'm sure, and I hope, that Delaware and Liechtenstein and Switzerland and London have to be subjected to the same things and the same regulations and the same legislation that Anguilla has to be subjected to. Then, only then, we can say that we have fair play in the game. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Are there any other contributions to this bill? Since there are no other contributions, I invite the mover to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill, Offshore Banking Act 2024, is one that will help the Commission to regulate offshore banking in Anguilla. And I'm hoping that with the track record of the Anguilla Financial Service Commission of holding these entities to account, that we can attract more offshore banking services in Anguilla. I do know that it is essential that this service is provided so that we can attract some of the entities, as I mentioned, and certainly I think for economies of scale, if we can get larger corporations, banking institutions, and other financial institutions to see Anguilla as an attractive jurisdiction, and then we'll continue to provide jobs in those fields and industries for our young people as they leave school and gain the necessary skill and education, that they would want to come back to Anguilla to provide that service to the people of Anguilla. And so I look forward to this being the catalyst that starts the financial industry to start growing, as the minister and member for Road South said. Anguilla financial services used to cater for about 20% of our budget. Now it's under 5%, and we want to see that grow again as we have another pillar of the economy as we diversify. But we continue to know that tourism is our main industry, and we want to also have the fishing, the farming, financial services, and other industries as we move along. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled, "A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024" be now read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to repeal the Trust Companies and Offshore Banking Act and to replace it with the Offshore Banking Act as a consequence of the enactment of the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act, which now governs the management of trust companies.
Under Rule 45 of the House of Assembly Rules of Procedure 2021, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole Assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly in committee. So I now invite Ms. Carty again. Please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So briefly, I just wanted to clarify that the offshore banking bill is actually considered as consequential amendments. The legislation is actually drafted to transfer the provisions in relation to offshore banking from the Trust Companies and Offshore Banking Act and regulations. So once this legislation is repealed, it is going to, or the provisions are going to be transferred to the Offshore Banking Act. And all of this is as a result of the previous bill being enacted, which is the Trust Companies, the Trust and Corporate Service Providers legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carty. And if there are any questions during the committee stage, you can direct them to her.
Clauses 1 through 2.
I put the question that clauses 1 to 2 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 3 through 7.
I put the question that clauses 3 to 7 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 8 through 28.
I put the question that clauses 8 through 28 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. I want to say thank you again to Ms. Sharon A. Carty, who is the Deputy Director of Supervision of Financial Services Commission here in Anguilla. Thank you. The mover may report, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to report that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024 has passed through committee without amendments and is ready for its third reading. Madam Speaker, I beg of this Honorable House that Rule 44 be suspended to allow the second and third readings of this bill in the same sitting. As you would have heard from the Deputy Director, this act is necessary due to the passing of the previous act, the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act 2024, which would now allow the Offshore Banking Act 2024 to come into effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Under Rule 36 of the Rules of Procedure, I consent to the proposing of this motion. Can someone second, please?
Madam Speaker, I second.
It has been moved and seconded that the rules of procedure of the Assembly be suspended to allow the bill entitled A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024 to be read a third time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Rule 44 of the Rules of Procedure is now suspended.
A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024, third reading.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024 be read a third time and passed.
Madam Speaker, I second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Offshore Banking Act 2024 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to repeal the Trust Companies and Offshore Banking Act and to replace it with the Offshore Banking Act as a consequence of the enactment of the Trust and Corporate Services Providers Act, which now governs the management of trust companies.
Bill read a third time and passed.
A Bill for Utility Token Offering Act 2024, first reading.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 be read a first time.
Madam Speaker, I second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 be read a first time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a first time.
An act for the registration of issuers of utility token offerings in or from within Anguilla.
Bill read a first time.
A bill for Utility Token Offering Act 2024, second reading.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled "A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024" be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise a second.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, the Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 has a history to it, Madam Speaker. On May the 8th, 2018, the Auto Act, which is the Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act, was enacted. And shortly after that, there was enactment of the auto regulations on the 13th of August 2018. This provided a supervisory framework for the Anguilla utility token offerings under the Anguilla Financial Services Commission. On the 7th of September 2018, the Commission Board approved a procedure for registering an issuer under the Auto Act and procedure for making an application for a license to carry on business in or from Anguilla as a utility token offering administrator under the Auto Act. In October 2020, there were amendments to the 2018 auto regulations as well, and then new regulations were enacted. This clarified the regulatory process for the current and prospective licensees, as well as served as a basis for the amendments to the noted legislation, which we are considering at this time. Considering that technology for digital assets, including utility tokens, is rapidly changing, amendments on a regular basis are expected. The following amendments to note in the draft for the Auto Act 2024: 1, amendments to the definitions and the interpretation sections, including blockchain, constitutional documents, distributed ledger platform, prescribed period, utility token features. 2, addition of provision to regularize the payment of annual fees by the issuer to the Commission. The fees are already in the previous regulations. Amendment to the provision detailing the meaning of affiliate. Amendment to the provisions detailing requirements and the guidelines, and overall review of the provisions to ensure conformity with the regulatory framework as set out in the guidelines. Considering the extensive amount of amendments, Madam Speaker, it was decided that the Auto Act of 2018 be repealed and replaced with this new legislation, the Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024. This allows for a clearer and improved regulatory framework. Further, it allows the jurisdiction to comply with Recommendation 15 on the new technologies of the Financial Action Task Force, as we mentioned earlier, FATF. The financial implications, as I said, that this provides on the annual fees which allow the Commission to collect the fees for the supervision of an issuer, and this is regularized in the amended legislation, as the fees were previously set out in the regulations without the corresponding enabling provision in the Auto Act. The amendments to the draft Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 have been reviewed by the Attorney General's chambers, and that there's no conflict with the Constitution of Anguilla. Consultation, and the amendments were made in consultation with member of the Distributed Ledger Technology Advisory Committee, a committee formed under the Auto Act made up of professionals in the blockchain technological space from various international jurisdictions. The sole issuer of utility tokens in Anguilla, registered and licensed at this time under the Auto Act, was involved in the consultation process. The attached draft legislation, which we are considering today, was published on the Commission's website and forwarded to the industry on the 3rd of February 2023 for consultation. The comments were reviewed and they complied. So, Madam Speaker, there was a strong consultation record on this act, and therefore we bring it to the House today for consideration by the members, and hopefully all will approve this legislation, which is necessary as Anguilla modernizes. We know in the world, we hear about utility tokens and blockchain and all of these new areas that are being developed, Bitcoin, etc. We want to make sure that Anguilla's legislation, modernizes as these financial services modernize and become available in the new technologies. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite debate on the merits and principles of a bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024. The floor is open for contribution. Since there are no contributions, I invite the mover to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to thank the members for understanding the importance of this legislation and regulations that are attached to them, because as we expand the financial service industry, as new and amended areas in the financial service come about, we want to make sure that we are compliant, that they can be regulated as necessary, and certainly Anguilla then stays on the cutting edge and allows the financial service industry to continue to grow. So I want to thank the members because I will accept that silence is consent. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 be now read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act for the registration of issuers of utility token offerings in or from within Anguilla.
Under Rule 45 of the House of Assembly Rules of Procedure 2021, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole Assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly in committee. I again invite the Deputy Director Supervision, Ms. Sharon A. Carty, to join us.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to add further to the comments made by the Premier, I just wanted to highlight that indeed this is a space that's rapidly growing and rapidly changing. The Commission continues to monitor all advancements and developments in this space, and therefore, in order for us to ensure that there's regulatory clarity at some point in time, which may be quite often, we would have to come before the House to make amendments to the legislation. So this is one of those occasions. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to add, if there are any questions during the committee stage, you can direct them also to Ms. Carty.
Clause 1.
I put the question that Clause 1 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 2 to 3.
I put the question that Clauses 2 to 3 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 4 through 15.
I put the question that Clauses 4 through 15 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 16 through 21.
I put the question that Clauses 16 through 21 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Clauses 22 through 32.
I put the question that Clauses 22 through 32 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. I thank you for your time, Ms. Sharon A. Carty, the Deputy Director Supervision of Financial Services Commission here in Anguilla, and for your explanation this morning to the Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill shortly entitled A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 has passed through committee without amendment and is ready for its third reading. Madam Speaker, I rise to beg that this Honorable House suspend Rule 44 to allow second and third readings of this bill on the at the same sitting. We do understand the need for these type of amendments to be done, and this new Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 to replace the Auto Act of 2018, because the industry is changing so rapidly. We have to ensure that Financial Service Commission has the necessary backing to regulate the industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Under Rule 36 of the Rules of Procedure, I consent to the proposing of this motion. Can someone second?
Madam Speaker, I second.
It has been moved and seconded that the rules of procedure of the Assembly be suspended to allow the bill entitled A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 to be read a third time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Rule 44 of the Rules of Procedure is now suspended.
A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024, third reading.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 be read a third time and passed.
Madam Speaker, I second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled A Bill for Anguilla Utility Token Offering Act 2024 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act for the registration of issuers of utility token offerings in or from within Anguilla.
Bill read a third time and passed.
Private members' bills, none. Private bills, none. Other orders of the day.
I will allow members at this time to offer Christmas greetings, best wishes to their constituents, family members, other members, etc., fellow Anguillians. And at this time, I just want to extend best wishes to all Anguillians, near and far, family members, members of the Assembly, staff of the Assembly, and all. A Merry Christmas and the best for the coming new year. So I'll be brief in saying that, and now I open the floor for members for any other orders. The member for Sandy Hill is recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Speaker. Good morning to members of this honorable House and to the listening and viewing public. Madam Speaker, as we close out this year, we recognize the Christmas period as a season, as a time where people take the opportunity to slow down, take stock of the past year, and renew their vision for the year to come. It's also a time for family and friends to come together, for persons to extend a helping hand to those who are less fortunate. And Madam Speaker, we will always remember the real reason for the season, the birth of Jesus Christ and the spirit of hope and renewal that exists at this time of year. And so, Madam Speaker, the year 2024 has been difficult for many persons. And as we go into the new year, as leader of the opposition, I would like to extend a very Merry Christmas to all and a prosperous, joyous, and Happy New Year. And Madam Speaker, in particular, I want to wish the residents of District Number 2 a Merry Christmas and to extend to them my greetings, my love, my concern for each and every one of them, and I thank them for their continued support of me over the years. And so thank you with that, Madam Speaker. I sit.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I recognize the member for West End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I too rise to wish my constituents, home and abroad, all the very best for the Christmas season and all the best for the coming year. To colleagues in the House, to Anguillians wherever you are, to visitors to Anguilla, again, I offer all the best. What I will say though, Madam Speaker, is that over the years, Christmas has changed as we've known it. Circumstance or time has caused that. But I'm still heartened that still there are many, whether they're 50 plus, can remember the good old days. And again, I like to think that even though these days will not be the same as back then, that families can find time to share the joy of Christmas. I know I look forward to Christmas Day going to church at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think it's a great way for all of us to look forward to Christmas as well as the new year. So, Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity and to all, but please have a very safe season because it only takes one accident to spoil the Christmas season for all of us. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for West End, and thank you for reminding us to be responsible as we go through the Christmas season, to be safe. Any other orders of the day? The Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and a pleasant good morning to those who are tuned in via the social media. Madam Speaker, we are nearing the Christmas observance of Christmas Day on Wednesday, and this is the last meeting of this Honorable House for 2024. So, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, in particular, Madam Speaker, for your sterling leadership and management of this Assembly over the past year, Madam Speaker, to Joash and Venetia and all the other staff of this Assembly, to the Sergeant at Arms for doing a great job, Chaplain and all others, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the work that you do in advancing the good of this country. Madam Speaker, to the Premier, my Premier, and all my Cabinet colleagues, thank you so much for the wonderful support you have provided during the year. I'm looking forward to what's coming up next year. It would be remiss of me, Madam Speaker, if I were not to speak about the staff at the Ministry of Home Affairs who have been a shoulder of support in every possible way. And the staff is small, so I can't take the liberty of calling their names. So to Clarion and Alana and Jeanette and Shimika, and of course our good Deputy Governor acting in the House with us this morning, Dr. Harrigan, thank you for all the support that you have provided. And then our departments, Madam Speaker, Immigration, headed by Ms. Lorraine Bryan, Labor, headed by Ms. Joanne Hodge, Lands and Surveys, headed by Mr. Jason Hodge, Physical Planning, headed by Ms. Sharon Hodge, and Radio Anguilla, headed by Ms. Farrell Banks. And I must single out, Madam Speaker, the work that Mr. T. Lester Richardson, Madam Speaker. This man is retired, long retired, and yet he is still here, faithfully doing the people's work for Radio Anguilla. So I think I really want to single him out for the work that he has done. Madam Speaker, as an island-wide candidate, I do not claim a district, although I am resident in District 3. But Madam Speaker, I want to thank the people of Anguilla for their support, and particularly during the Christmas festivities as I've been moving around and speaking with people, hearing their concerns, Madam Speaker, and so forth. I want to thank them for the support that they provided not only to me, but to this administration. And of course, we can't forget the workers. I'm the Labor Minister, Madam Speaker, and I can certainly tell you that Labor has been a hotbed during my tenure, and it still continues to be, and we continue to fight for the rights of workers. But I just want to say to the workers across Anguilla, whether you be in hospitality or any other field, to keep up the good work that you are doing, and to keep this country moving, Madam Speaker. Thank you for your service. And of course, my family for their support, my dear wife and my children. Without their support, I don't know sometimes how I would have made it, because it's a daunting task, Madam Speaker. I have resorted now to keeping my head very clean, because people were commenting on the color change in my hair, you know, and that goes with the territory. But nonetheless, that was just a joke, Madam Speaker. My colleague across, your hair is white too? Yeah, so it's been a good year, Madam Speaker, and I certainly extend Christmas greetings. I know there are many families at this time, Madam Speaker, who are mourning the loss of loved ones, and I know right in my own family, we've had a loss of someone, and I just want to reach out at this time to all the grieving families that while we are celebrating Christmas, we still remember to look out for those who are grieving the loss of loved ones. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I look forward to what 2025 will bring. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member for Road North is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a Sunday morning. Wish everyone a pleasant good morning. To those joining us today, thanks for keeping us company during this festive time. It's nice to have guests at this time. Madam Speaker, I would like just to start by wishing all the residents of Road North, that's North Hill, Sandy Ground, South Hill, and Water Swamp, a very, very happy Christmas when it comes, and a happy New Year. This year has been a wonderful year for Anguilla on a whole. We've seen Anguilla move forward by leaps and bounds, and I'm just happy to be a part of the ride. Madam Speaker, at a function in West End on Hero and Heroes Day, I had a conversation with a cousin of mine in West End. I won't call his name, I'll just say he's the son of Ned and the grandson of my Tantan Aine in West End. But it was a deep conversation that started with boat race, and then it went into how we aren't as loving as a community anymore, how we don't look out for each other anymore, how the fellowship amongst us as Anguillians is not what it used to be. And I started to reminisce because as someone born in the 70s, I used to look forward for our Sunday rides down to West End because that was as if you're traveling to a whole other country. Such was the country in terms of transportation that you never got around as much. I look forward to those trips, but in thinking back, those weren't just trips. That was also connecting with a part of your family that weren't in the immediate village. Tantan Aine would have moved out of North Hill before I was born, you know, and that was sometimes the only way you get to connect with your family. And I start thinking, here we are in this day and age, Madam Speaker, everyone have a vehicle, everyone has means, but yet we are still further apart as families. Sometimes we are living in the same village, Madam Speaker, living next door to each other, Madam Speaker, and we're not bothering to reach out and share love. So I just while I'm on my feet, Madam Speaker, I just want to let all of Anguilla know, put aside our differences. We can have differences. We cannot see eye to eye on certain matters, but that does not stop us from loving our fellow man, our fellow Anguillians, Madam Speaker. And I think it's so, so important going into Christmas, going into next year, into a new year, that we unload those baggages, those things that are holding us down, and we as a people continue to bond together, because we are known to be a people, Madam Speaker, that bond together, that look out for each other. And sometimes I have that fear that we are kind of losing that we are becoming like some first world nations in terms of not looking out for each other. Madam Speaker, as I was reading some news articles for some of our neighboring islands, and I've seen some of the tragedies that has been happening in some of our neighboring islands, I thank God that we have been protected thus far for the season. And I pray for his continued protection on this entire island, Madam Speaker. As we go into the Christmas season, I know it's a time of festivities and it's a time of partying, and sometimes, Madam Speaker, the drinks are mixed a little too heavy. But like the member for West End, I caution everyone, just be responsible, Madam Speaker. I know it's not in our culture to have a designated driver when we go out, but if we know we're going to be going out, we get that designated driver, Madam Speaker, because there are times when I think we need to change our culture, and that is one thing that I need for us to change, because we see too much cases where there's drinking and driving, especially during our festive season, Madam Speaker. So I just want to caution everyone, enjoy the season, enjoy it to the max, but also be responsible. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you also, member for Road North. I recognize the member for Road South now.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought you were saying that I was a member for Road North. You know, we are tied at the hip. The only thing that separates us is a road that divides the constituencies but not divide the people. We are all one people, from Ellen Harbour to West End, from Shoal Bay to the forest. In the spirit of unity that we once had, we need to get back to that, because invariably when you see things that occur that are deviant in our society, if you look at the DNA, you'll see that a lot of these folks are related. And we need to understand that. As a member for Road North said, he was born in the 70s. Well, I was born in the 90s, Madam Speaker. But I remember the days when we could go anywhere in the island. You know, my good friend in Island Harbor, Rosebud, she reminds me of the days when my father would take us up on a Sunday to their home. And on a Saturday, we'd be down in West End by Belto, in Blowing Point and so forth. So, you know, we are one community, and we need to get back to that community spirit. On the days in which we had serenade, Madam Speaker, when persons would come to your home and serenade, you know, the culture have changed. And, you know, we often talk about culture, but culture obviously is dynamic. It don't remain stagnant. But, Madam Speaker, I just like to say that we have come a long way in the last 4 years, Madam Speaker, a long way. We know where we were on the 1st of July 2020. And Madam Speaker, when I reflect sometimes, and it's not an exhaustive list, when I think about the fact that we have a new airport road where vehicles, if they weren't careful, they'd topple over driving on that airport road. The bypass that we have created alleviates the traffic significantly going to the west in particular times, such as noon and in the afternoons. The tint law, which was a bad law from the beginning, was changed. And now we know that our young people won't have records because of the decriminalization. That was a long fight, Madam Speaker, and thanks to the member for Valley North for really pushing and ensuring to see that. Valley South, sorry. Thanks to the member for Valley South for really pushing and seeing that all the way through. Thank you, Premier. We need someone like you to always lead. Madam Speaker, you know, and we see now the folks who are living on the Patience Gums Road that leads from South Hill to Jeremiah Gums Highway will get some ease in that road being developed, as well as the Park Avenue Road and other roads that are now, we have contracts to be surveyed for, like the Phillips Drive Road. And oh man, the member for Road North, he would not let us rest until the North Hill Road was considered. So we are happy to see that we have signed the contracts for the surveying for the North Hill Road, and in all of 2025, that road will no longer be a road similar to the former airport road, Madam Speaker. I drove on that road last night on my way to the Corner Bar, and man, it reminded me why that road was long overdue. So you put the pressure on me and you squeeze me real hard. That's a quote from the former Minister of Infrastructure, Mr. Curtis Love Richardson. But we're here. And Madam Speaker, to think that for 60 years we were talking about the Valley Main Road, and I remember standing next to the road when it was being excavated, and an older gentleman said to me, from the 1970s he's been hearing about it, and he would never thought that he would live long enough to see it happen. And today we have a city town center that looks the part, you know. It feels different when you hit the roundabout over by Lucas Wilson. It feels different. The landscaping that our social partners have contributed and continue to maintain, it just feels different. It has a nice character to it. The valley, which is a city, needs to look that part. We need to do more, Madam Speaker. And to think that we now have a beautiful Blowing Point Ferry Terminal, you know, designed by us and built by us, and we are very happy that we can share that with the rest of the world, because 89% of our visitors now come through the Blowing Point Ferry Terminal, a sharp decline based on percentage compared to the Clayton J. Lloyd International Airport, Madam Speaker. And for many years, you know, we always talk about we need an MRI machine in Anguilla, because people had to go to other islands to do an MRI. And thanks to the Honorable Premier, who was adamant that we invest in healthcare in whatever means, whether it be private sector investment or public sector investment, and that continues to be something that we are keen about, Madam Speaker. And the Blowing Point Sports Facility that is now plastered and getting ready, Madam Speaker, we are very happy, and soon you'll have one in Island Harbor as well. So you'll have a sporting facility, covered sporting facility in Highland Harbor, and one in Blowing Point, and we're going to be rehabilitating the one at the Rodney MacArthur Ray Auditorium, Madam Speaker. That needs some significant work, and that will be done in 2025 as well. Madam Speaker, the investments in healthcare, education, and water cannot be underscored, you know, and we are happy that we have made those investments, and we continue to make those investments. If you look at the recent budget, Madam Speaker, those investments have been made. And how long, Madam Speaker, how long have we talked about a minimum wage for Anguilla? How long? You know, the member for Road North, he was born in the 70s, so he knows we've been talking about a minimum wage for a very long time, and the minimum wage in Anguilla is the highest in the Leeward Islands, the highest, and if you include the Windward Islands, one of the highest in the Caribbean. And yes, there may be an argument that it may not be a living wage, but we have a minimum wage for the first time in our history. We can only build from there, Madam Speaker. And I must thank the member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, for seeing that through. You know, hard decisions, Madam Speaker. And we must be thankful in this season of gratitude. The green space, Madam Speaker. You know, it is so good. Every day you pass by, you see people congregating, people having lunch, people having events at the National Green Space. And Minister Gums Marie, I don't know, oh, she's here, Madam Speaker. Minister Gums Marie saw that all the way to fruition, Madam Speaker. I'm very happy about that. And Madam Speaker, I have always rehashed the times as a child and living in my parents' home, and my father, he would always be cooking breakfast, doing breakfast for the community, because there were so many persons who didn't have. And all through the 70s, Madam Speaker, I give away my age now, you know. All through the 70s, Madam Speaker, and the 80s in particular, that occurred. And there's always been a time, if you read the book of my uncle, the books of my uncle, he spoke about the severe hardships that we endured back in the days, the hungry bellies, Madam Speaker. And persons had to go to school on hungry stomachs. And many of them will drop out of school at 10, 11, 12 years old to go out to work, Madam Speaker. We heard of the story of Mr. Charlie Gums, who was sent to the San Pedro de Macorís at the age of 9 to cut cane, Madam Speaker. And if you think about it, you know, all of those also have children. Think about our children leaving Anguilla to go down to a foreign country to cut cane in order for the family to have a respectable living, Madam Speaker. And that says how far we have come. And today, we have in most of our schools, and soon all of our schools, a lunch program where children can have not burgers and fries, another old white bread sandwich, increasing their sugar content and having them hyper, Madam Speaker, but proper meals, Madam Speaker. And no shortage of thanks to the partners, driven by the Honorable Premier and the Honorable Member for Valley South, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, Senior Shield impacts every single one of us. It doesn't matter who we are, whether you're for or whether you're against, whether you're front or otherwise, it impacts every single person. And the fact that we have well over 1,000 persons, Madam Speaker, have signed up for Senior Shield, who can go to the Anguilla and the government-owned medical health facilities, including the dentists, Madam Speaker, and have their health care taken care of, and don't have to worry about whether or not they have to look out for their health care, get tests and so forth to see where they are or whether they can buy food. Because when you're senior, you're not earning anymore, you know, and most seniors may have worked in the hospitality sector where there's no pension, and that is why the single island rate member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, is working diligently. A committee has been put in place to ensure that those individuals will no longer have to worry about a pension, because we'll have pension, universal pension in Anguilla for all of our citizens, Madam Speaker, and for that, we must be grateful. And for the Premier to not say only we should take care of our elderly, but we must also look out for our youth. So those up until the age of 5, and given the fact that a member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, have had a goal of increasing our population, the fact that now you don't have to pay for health care for those up until 5, it means that the incentive to increase our population, Madam Speaker, is firmly in place. And I would like to admonish all of those individuals under the age of 45 to take advantage of this incentive, Madam Speaker. Over the age of 21 and under the age of 45 to take advantage of this incentive, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. And Madam Speaker, dialysis patients, and the Premier can speak to this one intimately. Dialysis patients, we've had so many instances of dialysis patients, Madam Speaker, who could not afford dialysis, Madam Speaker, who has had difficulties in meeting their schedules for dialysis. This is a life or death situation. And when the Premier decided to do the Junior Shield, Madam Speaker, he said dialysis must be part of it, because we've had too many people, especially even young people, Madam Speaker, who are on dialysis, and the cost is tremendous to these individuals. And now dialysis patients, Madam Speaker, can keep to their schedules and have dialysis done and stay as healthy as they can until they can have maybe a kidney transplant, Madam Speaker. So, Premier, in the spirit of gratitude, I know one individual, a good friend of mine, who is very grateful, extremely grateful for extending this to dialysis patients, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, for many years we've talked about diversification of our economy. Earlier we spoke about the fact that financial services was a great player before, and we are where we are. And we know where AI is, and hopefully that can grow, and hopefully that will not meet the same fate of financial services. But we will never, never diversify totally away from tourism. Never, regardless of what they may say. We will never diversify totally away from tourism. And in diversification of our economy, the single Isle member, Ms. Quincy Gomes-Marie, have worked hard to ensure that that become a reality. And the first year, I think she got about $1 million in the budget. The second year, she got about 1.2. The third year, she got about 1.4, 1.3. And next year, it's pretty close to $2 million in investment in farming and fishing. And it's not only peripheral, Madam Speaker. It's tangible. You can see it, you can feel it. The water tanks, Madam Speaker, being filled to 2,000 gallons. The Canopy Village, Madam Speaker, that is right there in the village, in the valley, that everyone can see. And not only that, those canopies, those shade houses are being developed on farmers' lands as well. So you may not see them, but they're being developed as we speak, Madam Speaker. That is real diversification. That is real investment in the sector, not just lip service, Madam Speaker. And in the spirit of gratitude, we must be grateful. We must be grateful, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the fact that the Honorable Premier brought to Executive Council and was able to pass through Executive Council a slew of businesses that must be protected for Anguillians, that should have been done 20 years ago, Madam Speaker, 30 years ago. That should have been done. But you know what they say? Better late than never. Better late than never. And that has been done. So there are businesses now that is solely carved out for the Anguillian people. And that is important, because we know where we were in the 60s, we know where we were in the 70s, we know where we were in the 80s, we know where we were in the 90s, and then we know where we were from 2000 to 2010 and beyond, Madam Speaker. So thank you very much, Premier. In the spirit of gratitude, we are grateful. And Madam Speaker, the airport development, the studies show, and this is no new study, the studies show from way back in 1978, the Shank and Cox report, I believe it was called, that airport development is going to be the most important in terms of building our resilience and making us economically strong, Madam Speaker. And the reality is, even before that report was done, the Honorable Father of the Nation was keen on development of the airport, Madam Speaker. And we've talked about it ad nauseum. And because, again, of the leadership of the Honorable Premier, we now have embarked on the most important infrastructure development Anguilla has ever seen and will ever see, because it will transform Anguilla's economy, build resilience, and put us on a strong footing to continue to grow our tourism and diversify our industry, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, would you like to take a break? Okay. Yes, and Madam, and again, Premier, in the spirit of gratitude, in the season of gratitude, we are grateful. Madam Speaker, the new medical school that we will see open in January, Madam Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the new medical school, New Anguilla University, will be open in January of 2025, Mr. Speaker. And again, because of the leadership and determination of the Honorable Premier, we are grateful. We are grateful. That will provide many service providers, apartment renters, household owners who are in the real estate sector to again expand. So there are now 2 universities where students will be transient, so to speak, where they'll come to Anguilla and they will stay in an apartment and stay in a house and purchase goods and services and contribute to our economy and contribute to our growth, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as you know, a few weeks ago, the real work at the marina in West End started. And again, that could not happen without the Honorable Premier and the member for Island Harbor, Mr. Speaker. It could not happen because we know Mr. Greenberger, Francis Greenberger, the owner of Altima, he has that property, but he didn't have a marina idea. He wasn't keen on marina development. And the Premier was able to marry marina developers and Altima as one. And today, because of that, we see that Anguilla is on the verge of having its first luxury mega yacht marina. We'll have a luxury brand. In the spirit of gratitude, Mr. Speaker, we must be grateful. Thank you, Premier. And Mr. Speaker, we are very proud of Mr. David Lloyd and what he is developing over there in Wild Lake, Mr. Speaker. The Lloyd's Aviation FBO, we see a tremendous amount of work happening there now. You know, I was racing to try to get a terminal finish, but David is saying, not you. You're not going to finish that terminal before the FBO. And we see the glass coming in, we see it taken farm, we see the great Desmond Paul, one of the best landscape professionals in Anguilla, adding his character to it, and we see it coming together in 2025, Mr. Speaker. That will be open to the public, you know, to our most exquisite guests, and we'll be very happy. So thank you, Mr. Lloyd, in the spirit of gratitude. Madam Speaker, we are grateful. And Mr. Speaker, now that you've demitted the chair and Madam Speaker has taken up the chair, the public servants, Madam Speaker, who have taken on a lot. Since 2008, they have received nothing but salary cuts and reduced take home because things evolve, but their salaries remain stagnant. And there'll be a review. It has already started. The Honorable Premier said that this is untenable. Our civil servants who have continued to work diligently must be compensated properly because we cannot afford to have a loss of our valuable talent, nor valuable resources. Our most important resources, Madam Speaker, is our human resources. So in the spirit of gratitude, Premier, we are grateful. And I also want to say, Madam Speaker, there's so much that we can speak about and be grateful for in this spirit of gratitude in this 2024 Christmas period, Madam Speaker. And I know I have been long and I have not spoken about all of the things that we have been able to do and get done, things that persons have said was impossible. But I also want to, and I will get in trouble for this, but I will still do it nevertheless, Madam Speaker. I want to extend my sincere thanks to Permanent Secretary Acting Mr. Travis Carty for the work that he is doing and continues to do in the ministry. You know, when we came to office, He was on vacation. He was in the wilderness. He was the stone that the builder refused. And I said, the stone that the builder refused shall be the head cornerstone. And he went from there to now as the acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Travis Carty. This is what we do, Madam Speaker. We are inclusive administration, and we take care of people. Madam Speaker, I'll also extend my gratitude to Mr. Kendall Richardson. 7 days a week. If I message him at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a response. Thank you, Kendall. Thank you. And Ronat, member, is saying that he's a North Hill man. But I want to say that he may have been a North Hill man, but now he's a Spring Path man. Spring Path, South Hill. So we have taken him and we are keeping him. So, and we are not trading him. So I don't care what type of draft picks you come with, member for Road North. Madam Speaker, I'd also like to extend my sincere thanks to Fiona and Christine, who keep me on my toes all the time. And that Miss Irish, Christine Irish, is an underappreciated, overworked individual. But I'm very grateful for the work that she does in the ministry. Joban and Daryl, I call them the hobblers, because both of them have knee issues. Young men, Madam Speaker, very young men, both of them with knee issues. I told them the next investment that we need to have over at the ministry is an escalator, elevator. You know, every now and then I have to give them pick it back up the steps, Madam Speaker. Young men, but they walk through the pain, Madam Speaker. They walk through the pain, Gorda and Shaq, Ziggy. And I said to the gentlemen and ladies in the ministry that I want to see a constructed shade for Ziggy, because I have said to them from 2020, there is cruel and unusual punishment for Ziggy, a long-standing soldier in Anguilla Public Service, to be going out there in the rain and the hot sun, to be checking vehicles, to license vehicles. And in 2025, we will see that happen, Madam Speaker. I would have liked it to be done sooner, but I don't do the drafting, I don't do a lot of the things I didn't do physically myself. But Ziggy, we're going to be taking care of you, long overdue. Change really couldn't wait, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Maury and Mitch, Shanice, Mr. Batik, Jocelyn, Waldemar. Waldemar's the newest addition to the team over there, and he do keep me on my toes, always on top of things, Madam Speaker. Kefense and Claudius, Madam Speaker, doing the work that they ought to be doing. Sharmel and Rohan Richardson, Keenan and Slick. We have a very diverse team over there. And Gregory Pomri, the latest addition, one of the latest additions to the team over there, Madam Speaker. I would just like to extend my gratitude. I know I've missed some names, but for the most part, I've captured most of the persons that I work with on a daily basis. I know they get tired of me coming to their offices and harassing them all the time, and they're always saying, Minister, you need to take a vacation now. Take a vacation. You know, there's a trip coming up. Why don't you take the trip? But if you look at the travel board in the Ministry of Infrastructure, you'll see a significant pot of money, Madam Speaker, because they can't get rid of me so easily. And after 2025, they'll realize that they're going to have me stuck with them for another 5 years, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, before I take my seat, I have to extend my sincere gratitude to the people of Rhodes South in particular. Swing High, Rendezvous, Blowing Point, Cul-de-sac, South Hill, Spring Path, even a little bit of Little Harbor, Madam Speaker. Lockram and the like, there are so many areas in Rhodes South, but I have to thank them, because without them, without God, without my parents, I couldn't be here. And I also want to extend greetings via this medium, and I will do it in person as usual, to my 98-year-old Uncle Freddie, who knows everything that is going on and is always excited to talk about the development that is occurring in the island. So on behalf of myself and my children, I would like to extend a wonderful Christmas to the people of Anguilla, those Anguillians at home and in the diaspora. Have a wonderful Christmas, and we're looking forward to yet another prosperous 2025. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Rhodes South. The Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mrs. Quincy Gums Marie, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rose to my feet already for the day, but I do want to wish everyone, well, a pleasant good afternoon now. And as we wind down the year, I'd like to thank yourself and the clerks and supporting staff of this House of Assembly for the excellent service and support throughout the year, and just the work that we have done in the last 5 years as a parliamentary body. I think this has been one of the best examples of what Parliament should be in, and the different ways and arms of Parliament, and to wish us all a happy and Merry Christmas and a pleasant and prosperous 2025. Madam Speaker, I start with a very simple Christmas message, but when someone before you go very long, you have to take notes, so I have to refer to my notes to remember everything. Over the past few weeks, Madam Speaker, I've been attending a lot of Christmas ceremonies, whether it is in singing, performances, poems, not pageantry, plays and such. I missed yours, and it's the premier forgot to remind me. So, in fact, it was the premier who reminded me. He was attending, and I was like, oh dear, I forgot it. And it's only when he was leaving to go I realized that I missed your date. So I apologize for that. But I did go to quite a few, including my own church's one over the weekend. And you hear the story a lot. And when we think about the presents and whatnot, when we really think about the Christian meaning of Christmas, at the core of it, it is taking people in, helping people at their lowest, and helping them to get back on their feet, because you never know what angels you may house or what good things you may spark from your acts of kindness. And I do want to encourage persons to just consider themselves in our own modern day Christmas story. You may not have somebody come in to give birth on your porch, but you may have somebody in your community in need. And it is really, this is not just the time, but it's a time when we remember how each one helps one, and we give hand-ups in our ability to help other people. And it is really, when I think about the Christmas story and how we center the needs of people, I do think about this administration. I do think about the work that we have done over the past 5 years, 4 years under the leadership of Premier Webster. And I do want to just thank him for the work that he has done, for his excellent leadership, for his visionary leadership. And sometimes, I hear him get flack, and I think about his position as Minister of Finance and how difficult it must be, because a lot of times in finance, there are things that you have to do, not necessarily things that you may want to do. But as Minister of Health, these are a lot of things that he wants to do. And I think of all the people who, as I went through different villages and attended different Christmas initiatives throughout the different villages, Ray Hill, Long Bay, and Island Harbor in particular, how many persons came up to me and told me that the senior shield, the removal of property tax, the 0 to 5 healthcare, the incoming kidney shield, I keep calling it that, but persons for dialysis, how much of a difference it makes, the credits off of the electricity, how much of a difference it makes for them and in their lives, and how many people don't know where people are at. And so when the government really reach out and help people without them having to ask for that assistance directly, it really makes a difference, even in their ability to do things like enjoy Christmas And so I just want to recognize the Premier for his excellent leadership and the initiatives that he would have started and seen to sustainable fruition, which is very important, because I do think that these initiatives would stand the test of time in Anguilla. Madam Speaker, as the Minister responsible for sustainability, innovation, and environment, I do want to wish a pleasant Christmas to my team. We've had some changes over this past year, and they have been really excellent and supportive. Changes within the ministry and changes with myself, as I was on maternity leave for 3 months this year, and they were very, very supportive throughout that time. And I came back with to a ministry, ready to move and ready to go, and all of the work that we have done. I do want to thank them. And as a minister who is pushing forward this team's priority item as it relates to food security, I do encourage persons to buy local, to source the meats, fish, and vegetables produced by our farmers and fishers. They are of the best. The quality is great. They are sourced through sustainable practices. And I do encourage persons, not just the individual, but restaurants as well, to make that partnership. And next year, as we come early next year to start the launch of Blue Week, I do encourage persons to take a part of that. Minister Kentish Rogers had to leave, and I do want to speak on her behalf. The Lansam Bowl market, the Lansam Bowl Christmas market, is quite a success. Again, encouraging persons to visit the market and visit the different offerings there. There are lots of opportunities to interact with the local enterprise of Anguilla. So on behalf of her, I do want to wish the people of Anguilla and directly District 4 a Merry Christmas that she would have asked me to do before she leave. Madam Speaker, just as I close, Island Harbor was a great time over the weekend. I do thank the Premier again for such a lovely community event. I met a young man though, and the story really stuck with me, and he said, "Do you remember the question I asked you 5 years ago when you were campaigning?" And of course my answer was no. And he said, you couldn't answer in that moment. And he said, "Do you remember the question?" I said, "No, I don't remember the question." He said, "The question was, are you sure you can do everything that you said that you would do?" And you and your team would have given me different responses, primarily that you'll try your best because you never know what you will meet. But I'm here to tell you that you didn't just do what you said you would do, you did more than what you said that you would do. And he said in 2020, Anguilla was in the 1990s. He said, in his opinion, we're in the 2010s, but he believes under this administration, under the leadership of our Premier, 5 or 10 more years, we will catch up with the time. And that was inspiration. So it really sparked my Christmas. It really made me feel like, the work that we've done, the sacrifices we've made, the hard decisions we've made, really would be worth it. And it was exceptionally more inspirational for this young man to be my age mate, to know that, young people tuned in and are inspired, and in this Christmas season can say that it is because of the work of this administration that they see themselves not just enjoying this Christmas, but many more Christmases to come. And so I think that is the modern day Anguilla Christmas story. Bringing a country to a point where we can all see the benefits and see the beauty of politics, because very much people like to remove these elements out of their lives. And in closing, I want to wish all of Anguilla a Merry Christmas, particularly my community in District 2 that would have raised me, my family, and on behalf of my husband and myself, I would like to just wish everyone a safe and enjoyable Christmas and a prosperous, reflective, and fulfilling 2025. See you again on the other side.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes, the Honorable Acting Deputy Governor is recognized.
Yes, Madam Speaker, thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. And good afternoon to everyone. So on behalf of the Deputy Governor, Mr. Perrin Bradley, I would like to, say Merry Christmas to all the civil servants and their families, and to thank the civil servants for all the hard work they would have done during the course of this year. And of course, we expect more of the same next year. And also, on behalf of my family and I would like to take the opportunity to wish a Merry Christmas to all the residents of Anguilla and visitors Anguilla, and best wishes for 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. Yes, the Honorable Attorney General is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would also like to rise from the official side of the House and join my colleague, the Acting Deputy Governor, and as well, Madam Speaker, you, Madam Speaker, and all the honorable members of this House, in extending to everyone in Anguilla very best wishes for a Merry Christmas, but also a very peaceful Christmas, and most of all, a very blessed Christmas. And so to everyone in Anguilla, I extend these very best wishes for Christmas. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, also member. And now the member for Island Harbor is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want us to remember those who have passed in this year, and their loved ones who are mourning at this time, and pray for their comfort, and as they get through this time when we should be joyful that they have this burden that they have to bear. We want to pray for those that are sick also, that they find healing, and those who are traveling for medical attention. We know there are some persons who are heading out at this time, and we want that they have traveling mercies and that they find the healing that they seek. Madam Speaker, I want to give special Christmas greetings to you as the Speaker of this House, and for having carried on the function of the people in this honorable House. To the clerk and the staff for the hard work they do to make sure that we stay organized, the Sergeant at Arms for keeping us in check, make sure that we follow the rules of the House, the chaplain. We do know that he had a recent health scare, and he's doing better now, and want to pray that he has full recovery, and for his wife who presided in his absence on occasion. I want to thank them and wish them also Merry Christmas and the best in 2025. People of District 1 who elected me to this honorable House, and I want to wish them a Merry Christmas, bright, prosperous, and healthy New Year, and extend that to all the people of Anguilla who continue to allow us to represent them and represent their best interests, look out for their well-being. And the member for Road South did go through a litany of accomplishments and things that have been done during the time of this administration. And I know that he has an even longer list of proposals that we want to do in the next 5 years that he's keeping secret at this time. But as we get onto the campaign trail in 2025, we will allow those to come out so the people understand that this progressive administration will continue to move forward to provide a sustainable economy to look out for the people of Anguilla in all the aspects, in health, in education, in safety, in social aspects, and to make sure that Anguilla can rise to where it needs to be and where it should be. And that is the purpose of this administration. But, Madam Speaker, I just want to point out that on the weekend, on Saturday, the 21st, we had the Christmas tree lighting in Island Harbor, and a good community event was well attended. I want to thank all those who came, who participated, who fellowshipped, and who felt welcome in Island Harbor, because we do know it's the birthplace of the revolution, and that community spirit of one for all and all for one persists. And I want to thank you for you and your family's help to get us through that event, Madam Speaker, and also Mr. Lanville Harrigan and Warren Fleming and Keith Harrigan for the work they did, Calvin Smith. Yes, we also, thank the band and DJ Luther for keeping us entertained. I think that we went way into the night and may have kept some people awake, but we certainly had a great time there in Island Harbor. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker, for the Starlight Singers, and not just singers, also actors and theatrical group, because it was a great performance at the St. Andrew's Anglican Church on Wednesday, 18th December. And, I must say that I was truly blessed, inspired, and, I did ask that this be repeated because I think that I know the short time that you had allocated to practicing, but the performance came off so well. The young people, from the young ages, toddlers even, all the way up, performed as professionals. And I really feel, and I think that sentiment was voiced throughout the whole event. And I really think that we long for that to be repeated and look forward to greater things coming out of the group that you presided over. Thank you again for that. It felt like Christmas, and certainly we have missed that community, that serenading, but it was done in such a professional manner, Madam Speaker. Thank you for that. I also want to, thank the St. Augustine's Chorale under the leadership of Maestro Lennox Vanderpool, who last evening, performed at the St. Augustine Church, and that will also be repeated on the 27th of December. So those who didn't come last night or didn't get there, the 27th, there will be another rendition. And those who were there last night can come again for a double blessing. We do know that the Mount Fortune Seventh-day Adventist Church, during their worship time on Saturday morning, on Sabbath, had singing of songs, and also they had Christmas in the yard yesterday evening at 5 o'clock at the Mount Fortune Seventh-day Adventist Church grounds. Heroes and Heroines Day in West End at the Mahogany Grove Park was an exciting event hosted by Jamie Hodge, honoring the stalwarts and patriots, the heroes and heroines of District 7. I was honored to be there to see the love that was outpouring, and certainly met so many persons that I knew of, heard of their accomplishments, but hadn't met them in person before. I was overjoyed to be there on Thursday, the 19th of December. I also want to say that want to wish Christmas greetings and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to Her Excellency Governor Julia Crouch. I know she's traveling at this time, to the Governor's office, to the Commissioner of Police, Robert Clark, for the stellar work that he's doing, Mrs. Clark also, and the Royal Anguilla Police Force, along with all those who serve this country and the people of Anguilla, the first responders, the doctors, nurses, and others who continue to support us. Those in the hospitality industry who keep this economy going, they are the engine that keeps Anguilla going in the direction it goes. All the construction workers, all those who continue to make sure that this country is on the right track, growing upward, and progressing in the right manner. Madam Speaker, I want us, as we enjoy this Christmas season and looking into the new year, that we celebrate responsibly, that we do things in moderation, and that we drive safely, because the life you save may be your own. And I do know that the public servants, I've said, that they continue to do the work of this country, sometimes sacrificing, working overtime, working tirelessly, dedicated to the service of this country and the people of this country. And today I would like to say, I know they've been asking, I would like to say to the hardworking public servants and those who work in the statutory bodies that there is an ex gratia payment that will be made on the 27th of December 2024. The public servants had made the sacrifice, and it's an honor for us to work with them and through them. We give the directives, they find ways to make it happen. And certainly we have, squeezed every penny that we can. We're looking at underspends, looking at where we could make sure that they can have, something that shows that this administration honors the work that they do, respects them as people of Anguilla and public servants. And certainly I know that this ex gratia payment is just a small token of our appreciation for the work of the public service, including those who work in the statutory bodies. And so we are honored to make that statement, and I do know that I won't get as many calls and people meeting me like they've been and asking if it's going to happen. It is going to happen on the 27th of December, 2024. And so, Madam Speaker, we go into the next year. It is campaigning. It is for the elections which will happen in 2025. And, we have different opinions. We sometimes have the same goals, but we have different ways of getting there. I know that the people will have to make the decision, the determination of who they want to lead this country on their behalf. We don't have to be rude to each other. We don't have to disrespect each other. We don't have to call down each other, because we are all Anguillians wanting to be the ones that can stand in the gap for the people. And certainly on this side, the Anguilla Progressive Movement, we have shown that we can do what is necessary to raise Anguilla from the brink of bankruptcy, to bring Anguilla to where we are now. Other islands and countries in the region are looking to Anguilla and what we've been doing and saying, here is, Anguilla is showing up a lot of countries. I see the social media comments from other islands and countries where they're calling down their governments because they're saying little Anguilla is leading the way. And I know that the opposition and other parties, they feel that they have the right stuff to get Anguilla where it needs to be. But I think that the people will look at track records, They'll look at, where we are now and where we came from and make the right decision. And we'll leave that up to the people of Anguilla. But we, as responsible and, adults and Anguillians, do not need to call down the name of each other or to degrade each other or to call down Anguilla. Because I think sometimes in the rancor and the noise that is made, we forget that we are one people. We forget that we have one purpose. We forget that, in the words of our forefathers, we were out to build a new Anguilla. An Anguilla that can stand the test of time, where all people will be proud to be called Anguillian, where our young people will want to grow up in this Anguilla so that they can contribute to it and pass it on to the next generation. We must, I said, we must do what is right for this country. Let's do it amicably. Let's do it with a sense of purpose and a sense of love and unity. May God bless us, and may God continue to bless Anguilla. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Island Harbor. And thank you to all members of the Assembly.
Adjournment.
Madam Speaker, I rise to beg that this Honorable House be adjourned sine die.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House now stands adjourned sine die. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This Honorable House now stands adjourned sine die. Thank you, members, and have yourselves Merry Christmas.